Hello, this is Angela from Natural Living Alchemy. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be fermenting herbs that we can use for cooking. Now, this recipe can be used with absolutely any fresh herb that you have, whether you grew them yourself in your garden or you just bought the fresh ones from the grocery store. Either one will work. So come and learn why we ferment, some suggested herbs that you might want to add into your fermentation, and as always, stick around to the notes and substitutions portion of this video for additional information and some troubleshooting tips. For this recipe, we are going to be following the lacto-fermentation process, which requires only salt, water, and in our case, herbs. Or it could be a vegetable, depending on what it is you're trying to make. So the important thing to know about this process is that harmful or pathogenic bacteria cannot tolerate salt, but beneficial bacteria, such as our friend Lactobacillus, absolutely can. So this is why good quality salt is very important in your fermentation. Lacto-fermentation requires a salt brine concentration of between 2 and 5%. So the recipe that I'm going to be sharing with you uses a 3.5% brine concentration. But basically anything over 2.2% is typically safe. I have just had really good luck with this 3.5 because, as you will see momentarily, the herbs that I'm going to be using are fresh. So I want to make sure, because they do have their water content, and I also store my fresh herbs in the freezer and then just take out what I want to use. So they are a little bit wetter. So by putting a 3.5% brine over top, we know that there's definitely going to be enough salt in there to keep everything safe and to keep those pathogenic bacteria at bay. Why would we go to all the trouble of fermenting herbs? Well, I'm going to share a couple reasons with you, and you decide if they're going to fit for you and if they're going to meet your needs. So one reason we would want to ferment herbs is basically it is just a method of preservation that has been used for a very, very long time. It might not be so common right now, but it is definitely something that our ancestors used to do. Fermenting herbs will also help enhance the flavor of the herbs themselves, adding a little bit more of a complexity to your dishes. It will also help improve digestion. It will increase nutritional value. It will increase the medicinal properties, as well as providing probiotic and gut health support. So some herbs that I am going to suggest, because maybe you don't want to use the combination I'm using, you could do dill, parsley, fennel, thyme, basil, mint, chives, oregano, or even dandelion leaves. We can definitely get creative in what it is we are wanting to put in these fermentations. You will be able to use this recipe on any singular herb, or you can do what I'm doing and use a blend of different herbs just to make a really, really nice fermented herbal blend. And I will definitely be sharing some ideas on how you could use this. So for mine, I'm going to be using a combination of basil, thyme, and oregano, and all of these are ones that I grew myself. So as I said a moment ago, when I like to store my herbs after I harvest them, I just basically put them in the freezer. I personally find that drying them does remove some of the medicinal benefits, and I really wanted those to be in here, especially since the fermentation process will enhance those medicinal benefits. So let's talk about the required equipment that you're going to need, and then I'm just going to show you how easy this is to put together. So you're going to need an immersion blender. Now, you can also use a food processor or just a regular blender if you wanted to. I just prefer to use this one. Now, my particular immersion blender also came with just this little piece. I've made this blend in here by just throwing the herbs in and mixing them in this way. I'm just, instead of using this today, I'm going to be using my immersion blender in just a mixing cup that came with it. You'll also need a mason jar to store your herbs in. I like to use a canning funnel for when I'm putting the herbs into the jar. And again, these things are in no particular order of when you're going to need them. You're going to need a whisk. We will need a measuring cup, and we will need a measuring spoon. So these three things are going to be when we make our salt brine. You'll also need a spatula and then just one of these pickle packers just to help ensure that we get all of our herbs nicely into the jar. The ingredients that you're going to require would be salt and water to make our brine, and then you are just going to need the herbs of your choice. Okay? Doesn't matter which ones you're going to use. We're going to prepare them all in the same way. So we are going to begin by mixing up our brine. So what we will do is, the way that I like to do it is just put my measuring cup directly on my scale, and then I'm going to add 3.5 grams of sea salt, and then to that I am just going to add enough water so that my scale reads 100 grams. Perfect. Okay, and then you just want to mix that until all of your salt is dissolved. So once you have your brine mixed up, you are then going to prepare your herbs. So what you will do is we are going to remove, and you can mix everything just in your jar here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the leaves from the woody stems of my thyme and my basil and my oregano, and just place them all in this container. Okay, so once you have all of your herbs in your container, you're going to want to add just a little bit of our brine, because we're going to start to make a paste. So I like to just pour some of this over top. If we need to make more, we need to make more. That's fine. I just didn't want to make too much extra, because I don't have any fermentations going that I might require some extra brine. So then you're just going to start to blend these up. And then just keep adding a little bit of water as you go. Actually, if you do happen to notice a little bit of a woody stem got past you, just pick it out. It's no big deal. And then partway through mixing, I do like to just kind of get all of the herbs scraped down from the sides of the container and out of the immersion blender, and then I just mix it up again. Okay, so once everything is nicely mixed up, this jar is actually going to be too big, so I just went and grabbed a bit of a smaller one. Just so that we don't make more of a mess, I like to just use a canning funnel, and then we're going to put our herb paste into the jar. And then you can definitely just use your pickle pounder to just kind of push the herbs paste further into the jar. So once everything is in your jar, all you're going to do is take a lid and you're just going to place it over top. Now, if you have an airlock lid, you would definitely want to use that. I don't have them for something this small. So all I'm going to do is use my regular mason jar lid, and once a day for the next 5 to 10 days, you're going to come and you're just going to loosen it. You're going to allow any gas that has built up to be released, because we definitely don't want too much pressure building up in this jar, because it could actually explode, and then you're going to have a far bigger mess to clean up. So you just want to make sure that you check it daily. I'm going to actually mix up a little bit more of our brine, because I want the brine to actually come above the amount, above the height of the herbs. Okay, so I will definitely mix some more up before we are done. I don't think you need to watch me make another 3.5% brine. But you're going to allow this to sit on your counter for about 5 to 10 days. And after the 10 days, actually starting at 5, I'm going to get you to taste it and see if you like how it tastes. And you can definitely push it to 10 days. You could push it longer if you wanted to and give it a try. See what maybe more flavors come out the longer you leave it. But you're going to need at least 5 to 10 days for sure. Once it has reached your desired flavor, you're then going to store the jar in the refrigerator and take it out as you need it. We have now reached the notes and suggestions portion of this video. So, if you only had dried herbs available to you, go ahead and just use those. It's fine. Just know that you might need to add additional water as your herbs start to hydrate themselves. So just keep a little jar of that brine close by, and then just add it if you need it. You do want to try to use fresh herbs at their peak quality if possible. And you do want to make sure that you are keeping your herbs fully submerged under the brine. Now, you could definitely use a fermentation weight. I just don't have any that would fit this size of jar. So all I'm going to do is just check it every day and make sure that everything is under the brine as it needs to be. I am going to suggest that you use your nose when it comes to making basically any fermentation, but especially this one. So your herb paste should smell sour when it's done, but it should never smell rotten. If it smells rotten, I would probably just throw it out and start over. I don't think it's worth it. Let's talk about bubbles for a second. So if you notice a lack of bubbles after, I'm going to say you should probably expect to start seeing them around that 3rd or 4th day for sure, if they're not there by then. So if there is no bubbles, I would try moving it to a warmer spot, because ambient temperature does definitely play a role, and maybe it's just a little bit too cold where you have it on your counter. So just try moving it and see if that helps. If you notice you have an excessive amount of bubbles or even foam, that's going to tell you that your temperature is too warm. So I would suggest trying to move this to a bit of a cooler spot and see if that helps. So the top layer of your fermented herbs is most likely going to turn a dark green or a brown color, and this is simply due to oxidization. So just be sure to stir your mixture before use. That oxidization is fine, and it's not going to be ruining anything. Now, if you do notice any signs of mold, I'm going to suggest that you just throw the whole thing out and start over. We really don't want to be consuming anything with mold. Now, mind you, if that mold was, say, just on the very top, and you felt confident that if you just scooped it out and everything below the brine was still okay, you would probably be okay, but that's completely your call. I personally would just throw it out, but I do know other people that have had their fermentations go moldy, and they just cleaned them up and it was okay. So now that we have our fermented herb paste, what do we do with it? Well, I'm going to share some suggested uses, and feel free to stray off of this list and use this however you want. Except if you do have a different way that you plan on using it, go ahead and put that in the comment box below this video. I would just love to see how you are using yours. But some suggested uses would be a garnish for pasta, meat, or vegetables. And you could combine the fermented herbs with a little bit of olive oil to do that. You can use it as a topping for eggs, omelets, and even soups or stews. You could use it as a base for salad dressings or even pestos. And I actually do have a video on this channel on how to make a herbal pesto. You could definitely just throw some of this in there and give it a little bit different of a flavor. I bet it would be delicious. You could also add this though into marinades and it will help tenderize meat. You could use it as a mix-in for a more savory yogurt. You could put it on sandwiches and use it as an herbal spread, or simply add it to any recipe that you want for an added bit of flavor. Now, before I forget to tell you, you could definitely also use a little bit of whey as a starter culture alongside your salt, and that works well too. But if you don't have any whey, salt and water will work just fine. If you're curious on how to get your own whey out of, I have a video on how to extract it from milk kefir. It would be the exact same process if you were just wanting to get it out of yogurt, but you could just also use a little bit of whey as your starter culture. So I would probably use 1 to 2 tablespoons. I would just put it in alongside of that brine when I first started mixing everything together. All right, there you have it. That is how simple it is to make your own fermented herbal paste. So don't forget to hit the like button if you've liked this video and share it with anyone else who you think might enjoy it. Consider subscribing to the channel so that we can spend more time together and that you don't miss future videos. But I just want to say thanks for stopping by today, and I'll see you next time.